Tonight, families are plunged into mourning after two young men are gunned down in Sarawak. A young returning national tests positive for COVID-19, taking the number of cases to 23. And the Gender Relations Minister calls for swifter enactment of laws that speak to gender-based violence after the killing of a young woman. The details of these stories and more are coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Tuesday, the 14th of July, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News on Flow, Channel 117, Kiss FM, the Caribbean Hot FM mobile app, and the Caribbean Hot 7 TV Facebook page. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Gun violence has claimed the lives of two young men of Sarawak only 24 hours after a shooting in the north of the island. Hot 7 TV spoke to family members of one of the deceased who said that the death has come as an especially hard blow to the family as it is the second of its kind. Rochelle Gonzalez begins our reporting.
One day after gun crime claimed the life of a young woman in the north of the island, tragedy has struck again of a similar nature in a small community in Sarawak, this time claiming the lives of two young men, one of them an up-and-coming star. According to police reports, shortly after 11 p.m. on Monday the 13th of July, Dexter Felix and Francis Altinor were together when they were approached by two masked men who opened fire in their direction. Shortly thereafter, Felix succumbed to his injuries, whilst Altinor passed away the following day, shortly after 5 a.m. The fiancé of Felix, as well as the mother of his infant son, had this to say.
I was sleeping. And I heard a big explosion. I didn't know what was going on, so I jumped from the sleep, and the first thing I did was look for my son because I know every little sound wakes him up. So I figured, oh gosh, here he goes. And I saw he was still sleeping, so I said to myself, I must have been dreaming. It's just a vivid dream. I was about to go back to sleep actually, but my mind said, just go outside and ask Dexter if he heard the sound too. And I went out, and I'm seeing him lying on the step, so I thought he was just playing a prank because he's that kind of person. And I'm like, Dexter, you didn't hear that? Dexter. And I keep calling him, but he's not waking up. And then I'm seeing a blood stain on his shirt. And then I realized that something is wrong. So I quickly ran inside to call his aunt to come back outside. And then we saw the other guy coming with blood on him. And then everything just started spiraling from there. So I really started to appreciate what was really going on. I saw him shifting his head just a little bit. And then eventually he just stopped moving completely.
And about what time did that happen?
I have no idea what time it was. I just jumped from the sleep. I didn't take the phone. I didn't check the time or anything.
So you said you heard about 4 shots?
No, I didn't. It was I couldn't count like shots. It was just an explosive sound, almost like a non-stop sound.
Yeah. So did you, after you heard the shots, did you hear or see anything?
Absolutely nothing. That's why I thought I was dreaming, because my son didn't wake up. That's kind of loud sound. I expected him to wake up. And nothing seemed out of the ordinary. So I'm going outside because Dexter normally goes out. Every night he does that. He goes outside, he's on social media, he stays on the phone, he comes in late. Sometimes after 2 he comes to bed. So it wasn't out of the ordinary. So I'm going outside to ask him if he heard, because I know that's where he is.
What type of person is he?
Very jovial. You know, he's he can be serious at times. Some people might even say he's savage. You know, he doesn't like big crowds, but a loving person, jovial. He used to do comedy. People know him as Dry Bones. He was into the motocross. He loved his bikes, you know. So he doesn't have any trouble with anybody.
A cousin of the deceased, Jacqueline Jenke, lamented the fact that Felix met a similar demise to his mother.
Somebody around. I'm his mom. I was only 7 at that time. And all of a sudden,
He's good.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
And his mother. And what are you to him?
His mother and I, we have this cousin. We have 2 sisters, children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said some years ago somebody stabbed
Stabbed his mom. Yeah, he was a little boy. And then he grew up his life without his mom, with his dad, and the family around him. So all of us did like, no, but somebody did the same thing to him. So it's really heartbreaking.
In the past 2 weeks, the island has recorded 4 homicides as a result of gun crime. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
On Tuesday, the 14th of July, St. Lucia recorded a positive case of COVID-19, taking the total number of cases confirmed so far to 23. The individual is a 27-year-old male, a returning national who arrived in St. Lucia on Friday, the 10th of July. Cases continue to surge in the U.S., particularly in Miami, which has become the epicenter of the virus. And with St. Lucia's borders now open to the U.S., officials are doubling down on protocols and asking the public to do the same. St. Lucia's international borders are now open, and what health officials anticipated and prepared for is coming to fruition. On Thursday, the 2nd of July, 3 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed. On Tuesday, the 14th of July, another case has been confirmed, taking the total of cases recorded so far to 23.
The individual is a 27-year-old male, a returning national who arrived in St. Lucia on Friday, July 10, 2020. Upon arrival, he was tested and placed in institutional quarantine. Upon receipt of the results, the individual has been transferred to the respiratory hospital for isolation and related supportive care. He is currently doing well. The risk to people in quarantine and staff of the facility is assessed as low, given the infection prevention and control guidelines in place at the quarantine site.
As St. Lucia moves to the 5th phase of the reopening of the economy, which is of the highest risk to the population, health officials anticipate the introduction of cases with both returning nationals and tourist arrivals.
Therefore, we remind the public on the importance of the protocols as we continue to manage COVID-19. All sectors are encouraged to adhere to the public health protocols, which include the recommended physical distancing, regular hand washing with soap and water, and the proper use of the face mask or scarf.
As it stands right now, the policy for passengers returning to St. Lucia outside the Caribbean bubble is to undergo institutional quarantine. However, some passengers may qualify for home quarantine based on certain requirements. Passengers who will qualify for home quarantine include minors less than 18, families with young children, individuals with underlying medical conditions or disabilities, those coming from low-risk areas, and those whose homes meet the criteria for home quarantine. The public is asked to cooperate and encourage family members and friends who have returned from overseas and are presently in quarantine to remain at home for the 14-day duration.
The names of all persons in home quarantine will be forwarded to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to support with the enforcement of compliance. The public is advised that they should alert the nearest police station or the Ministry of Health and Wellness at 468-5349, 468-5342, or 468-5312 with information in relation to anyone who breaches home quarantine guidelines.
At this stage, most sectors have reopened, and the public is reminded that mass crowd events are still prohibited. Nationals and visitors are asked to adhere to the protocols that have been put in place.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness is working in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism and has recently convened an emergency meeting to ensure the reinforcement of the protocols for guests at all approved COVID-19 certified accommodation. We once again reiterate the importance of quarantine as a measure to minimize the risk of transmitting COVID-19. This action is expected to protect the health and safety of every individual within our country.
Dr. Belmar George stresses that everyone has a significant role to play in minimizing the threat of COVID-19. The Minister for Gender Relations, Dr. Gail Rigobert, is speaking out about the killing of a young woman on Sunday. Anella Wilson's shooting death is allegedly linked to intimate partner violence, which is a kind of gender-based violence occurring among couples who are either in an active relationship or had been in an intimate relationship. In a press statement issued on Tuesday, the minister was adamant that the review process of new legislation that deals with domestic violence needs to be expedited, and she called upon stakeholders to do their part in ensuring that the new draft legislation sees the light of day soon. She lamented that there are too many cases still unresolved for one reason or another, causing the families of the victims compounded grief. The Department of Gender Relations, she says, has been working closely with other social agencies and international partners to assess, monitor, and respond to the harmful gender stereotypes that underpin gender-based violence in St. Lucia. This process is said to be holistic and involves legislative review, development of a gender-based violence referral pathway, capacity development of service providers, public education, and increase in availability of resources and services to the general public. The minister is calling on members of the public to use the services of the Women's Support Center Crisis Hotline, it's 202, if they believe that they are victims of intimate partner abuse, and to use the services of the National Helpline at 203, or call the St. Lucia Crisis Center at 712-7574 if they may need help in managing a threatening situation and their emotions. The services of the St. Lucia Crisis Center are accessible at 453-1521, or the Family Court can be reached at 468-3300. Now, the Director of Gender Relations, Janie Joseph, is also speaking out about gender-based violence occurring among couples who are currently or have previously been in an intimate relationship. Joseph says that sudden outbursts of violence are usually the fruit of a long-time abusive process, usually guided by societal stereotypes of the requirements of intimacy. Jacques Wooding reports.
The issue of intimate partner violence has seemingly rooted itself into society, as according to Director of Gender Relations Janie Joseph, perpetrators often believe that their actions are validated by societal stereotypes and prejudices.
We recognize that there are so many factors that are out there that are continuing to be exercised, or beliefs that are continued to be believed, right, that perpetrate that type of behavior that can eventually lead to a tragedy such as the one that we witnessed on Sunday. Of course, I'm not preempting any investigations and so on. We don't know the full nature of it because the details are still sketchy.
Joseph says evidence has shown that such incidents are not an isolated act of abuse, but instead stem from long-term acts of violence within the relationship.
The violence is just the outcome of abuse that would have started way before that. And like I indicated, sometimes in a society, there are ideas with reference to what a woman should be, what a man should be, how they should behave, the roles that they are supposed to play. And when they do not conform to those beliefs, they're not necessarily grounded in reality. Sometimes the expectations are unrealistic, right? And when they don't conform to those standards, they are punished.
She says though there is no statistical account or documentation on figures relating to dysfunctional relationships on island, it can be presumed that this is a prevalent issue in St. Lucian society. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, the National Trust calls for reinstatement of beach access at the Cabot development. The Police Welfare Association says it's tough to protect the lives of those accused of heinous crimes. And the turnaround that has the whole island buzzing. Ella, formerly Ecstasy, tells us all about her fairy tale wedding after a lifetime of struggle. That and more coming up after the break.